and welcome to the Grand Boulevard Coalition half-hour show. It is our drug-free community, and we are happy to have you here. We have a wonderful guest to end this wonderful session and this wonderful time that we've been together over the last 2 months. So we look forward to that. But before we do that, I would like to thank a few people and talk to you guys for a second. I would always like to say thank you for being our sector partners, and thank you for being a part of this ride. To all my audience out there today, and to my youth peer leader, Tanya Taylor, Maurice Covington over at the Vice President of the Institute of Positive Living, Aviance Richards, my secretary, and she's currently at Haymarket Institute. Over the grant, let's see, Larry S. He is over at the 35th State. He's over the grant department of 35th State Police Precinct. Executive Director of Center of New Horizon, Ms. Hamilton. Mark Wallace, Executive Director of Bronzeville Newsletter. John Cook, my good friend, over at the President of the Bronzeville Community Clubhouse. Greater Harvest Church. Isaiah Walton, who was here as one of my guests in the third week of this time around from Recovery 2000. Lakita Johnson, parent volunteer. Edward Boone, Laurie's Hospital, and my wonderful Alderman, Pat Dow. Okay, then we always have to go to our commercial break here. And here on our commercial break, we again would like to thank Ann and Robert Laurie Children's Hospital for the I Got This campaign. They're a wonderful partner, and they worked with us throughout the year, and we had a couple of people from there coming down and talk to us about their PAC, how a large organization form a citywide PAC, and they help us with formulating our PAC. And also the I Got This campaign. So please feel free to go to, if you're on Instagram, to I Got This Chicago. And I would like to show that one of our other second partners, if you guys can see this, 41 Girl and Blick Art Materials presenting a mother and daughter paint circle fundraiser tomorrow at the downtown Blick Art Store. Go to 41girl.eventbrite.com for more information. There he is, the man of the hour, my mentor, the person who's been molding me to be how good I am today here on TV and making me better. Howard, welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Leo.
Welcome. A little bit, why don't you get started with a little bit about yourself, your role there at Chicago Area Project, and I know your title is Associate Executive Director of Department Community Development Operations. Whew.
Kind of long there. Huh?
That's a long one there. So
yeah.
Go ahead and correct me, get me right, let the audience know who you are and where you work.
Thanks, William. I am glad to be back. Last year, about the same time I was here on the show, and young man Perry, he facilitated the show and he did a great job. But I'm more than just grateful to be here again this year. And I'm the Associate Executive Director with the Chicago Area Project, and that role entails doing community organization and working with neighborhoods to develop community-based organizations to address issues of young people and other challenges that may exist in those neighborhoods. So I've been doing that for the last 40 plus years. And
my God, that's great.
Yes.
That is great. And that's when you laid hands on me and say, Mr. Penn, you need to become part of this wonderful coalition and lead us through. And I've done that, and I'm in my second year, and I really appreciate it, and it's not something that I regret, that you and I have talked, and you've kind of taken me under your wings and kind of teach me the ropes in organization. So, with that, I would like for you to give me some of your thoughts about, since you area-wide, what are your thoughts about Grand Boulevard Coalition and what we're providing there, and how have you and Chicago Area Project intertwined with us to get us to where we are now going in our 6th year now?
Correct. Yes, we've been committed at Chicago Area Project for the last 40 plus years to Grand Boulevard community, And this has just been one program that we've kind of helped to design and develop for young people over the years. And Grand Boulevard Coalition is a special kind of initiative that we've been able to work with our local elected officials from Springfield and then some community leaders who've been very, very helpful in helping to shape the kinds of things that Grand Boulevard has been able to kind of pull together and develop on behalf of young people. And in particular, I'm just delighted that we brought the breadth and depth and breadth of the services there around educational and social media and some of the things that are really address this issue of underage drinking, and of course some of the major drug issues we've had with opioid and heroin and some of the other drugs that really kind of impact that neighborhood. But yeah, we're committed, always have been for years, to kind of pull together local residents and institutional leaders, as you have in your sector members, to make a real big difference in a promotional campaign to at least minimize some of the issues young people face around underage drinking and the other drug-related issues in that neighborhood.
Great, great. So now, with your thoughts and seeing how things are going, I guess I'd like for you to maybe forecast into the future. What can Grand Boulevard Coalition do better? Because we can always get better, right?
Yes, definitely.
In that community, in my community, to achieve some of those goals and to keep the momentum going with the decrease in alcohol use and cigarette use and I guess overall drug use. What can we do, as you can see, going forward?
Well, I think over the last, 3 to 5 years, well, 3 years, I should say, you made a major headway in really impacting the neighborhood by increasing the number of institutions and young people and parents in the effort to kind of promote the campaign of not, most of the kids don't use.
Okay.
And I know that's a theme of Grand Boulevard. Most young people don't use, and young people don't use. So how do we promote it better? And one way I've always kind of helped communities realize that let's recognize the assets in our community and acknowledge that and promote that in a way that you bring people together around positive youth development as opposed to the negativity sometimes that tends to be the thing that everybody latches on to. So the notion of really celebrating the assets, the strength, and the beauty of Grand Boulevard, because so much has come from that neighborhood that have made the difference in so many young people's lives, as well as adults and other leaders that have been exposed to a community working together to improve the quality of life. Right.
Good. So you kind of let us know about your 40 plus years of dedication in this area. So you've probably seen a couple of generations of parents growing up and become parents and now grandparents. But today, with today's parents and the way people are today, what are some of the things that you'd like to see or you think is missing on getting our parent more engaged with our youth?
Well, clearly, parents are overwhelmed with, major social challenges and other issues these days. And part of it is how do we begin to kind of support young parents in ways that they are willing to have the time and energy to kind of recognize that if they give back through service, things that they kind of have to offer as parents, I think that helped them really kind of tie into being a part of this movement we got through Grand Boulevard Coalition.
So that really makes it think that the community organizations like Grand Boulevard, like Chicago Area Project, and like some of our other sister agencies that are doing coalitions in other parts of the city is very important to a community.
Definitely. Community problems don't get solved unless the community is involved. And so if you acknowledge and as I'm recognizing through Grand Boulevard Coalition, if you acknowledge these folks in the neighborhoods for the good things they're doing, if it's as simple as parenting and other things that they're making a small difference in, if you acknowledge that, then they'll come and get engaged in the kinds of projects that Grand Boulevard offers.
Right. Okay. Which, like with some of our past events, as you know, during the Martin Luther King birthday weekend, we did the youth summit in regards to participation. We continue to do youth opioid intervention and how to spot people using. So we do a lot of, I guess, town hall meetings, and I think that with your guidance, we was able to put together a couple where it was youth-led from the start to the finish, and we could see how the future is looking so bright because they were able to pull it off and do all the social media parts of it, and just have a really good audience that showed up on their own and under no distress or being or having a finger in their face and you better show up.
Right.
But they came on their own and their own free will, which is what you were saying. And how do you think we could continue to empower our youth today?
Clearly, we were able to kind of get support from the federal government to kind of extend this work that we previously had started with the direction and guidance of some great leaders that you mentioned early on in the show who were part of the sector, members. And I think creating, opportunities through using young people as the voice, and in that voice ultimately kind of get connected to the adults in many ways when we can showcase and demonstrate that young people, first, they don't use, most of the young folks in that community don't use, and then two, the fact that they got some talents and skills that I think we need to acknowledge and promote and accentuate, and because communities, no matter what the circumstances are there, they still have assets.
Okay.
There are things that exist that are positive, we just got to capture that and celebrate it. And when we start doing the celebration of those kinds of things that young people are doing that are positive, you'll realize that people have another option as opposed to kind of going just along with all the negativity that generally exists in the community.
This is true. This is true.
So, in having leadership like yourself and others who have taken on the mantle is so important, and we're just proud that we're able to always, as an agency, Chicago Area Project, stimulate in communities leadership, and then support that leadership and have it kind of improve its ability to kind of be effective at getting to positive outcomes for young people.
Okay. The one thing you did bring up that we always know, none of this happens outside of volunteerism, but there is money that needs to continue to do this. And as you mentioned, the federal dollars, and of course there's state dollars. Now that we have a new government in place here in the state, do you feel that the purse strings, so to speak, will be loosened a little bit so we can get more dollars? Not Grand Boulevard or not Chicago Area Project, but just overall.
Yeah.
More dollars are becoming shaken a little loose and to help drive some of these missions.
Yes, I believe so. I really believe so. I think our governor, he's been quite adamant about making sure that resources that were lost over the last several years, especially targeting communities of need and at risk and the like, ensuring that they have a fair, shake at, so getting those resources kind of be funded and turned back to these neighborhoods. So I think we're in good shape. We got good political support and leadership that represent our neighborhood, and they're committed to ensuring that we kind of get the kind of grants and support to support the kind of support Grand Boulevard and other neighborhoods like that, which have programs that are self-help in nature. People want to make a difference, do volunteering, what have you, but like you're saying, those little small dollars that can help reinforce and support them makes a big difference.
Great. it's always people have their hands out in what they can get. So I would like to turn the table and say, what can Grand Boulevard Coalition do to strengthen and help Chicago Area Project?
Well, Chicago Area Project is a network of a community-based organization and has been, and we are celebrating actually our 85th year here in 2019.
Congratulations.
So the nature of our work has been one in which, you do the work that addresses the issue of young people, in particular young people who are at, risk and have challenges and barriers. And by doing the work that you do, that in itself kind of helps promote the notion of Chicago Area Project's mission of serving, communities and helping young people. So if that's our mission and you're doing those things, that the kind of, give and take that exists in these circumstances for our communities here in Chicago and the suburbs as well.
Great, great. Now, do you guys have a big conference or a conclave that all the different groups that you guys support around the city come together and meet and compare notes to help strengthen the different coalitions, but also stretch the dollars and stretch the resources that we have so we can almost blanket the whole city?
Well, obviously, the coalition is funded more by the federal government. And of course, historically, we have had, the kinds of events that allow for our young people as well as our parent leaders and community leaders come together and have dialogue. And those dialogues enable us to really kind of outline plans that it comes from the bottom up, not from the top down.
Okay.
The plans that come out of those kind of sessions basically are in tune with what folks need and want and are willing to participate in ensuring that it happens. So this year I'm sure we will probably have several different events around the notion of CAP and its history over the last 85 years and is it still effective? Is this work still necessary and effective? And we will be getting, notification of those kinds of things as they come about over the next several months.
Okay. Now, one main theme outside the coalition that I always weave through and all my guests is unfortunately is the opioid crisis. And I know you go to Washington, D.C., and I know you go down to Springfield and talk with the powers to be there on different missions and causes and stuff. And you come back and bring information to filter back out through us. And I know opioids is one of the areas that you have went and talked and did a little something. How do you feel things are setting now with that? It's getting better now that there's more of a highlight and it's in the news more, that people are getting help and there's enough help out there, or there still need to be more resources and there still to be more training and more politicking, or
Yes, well, I think the key is prevention, because what I think we're addressing in general these days with that on the national and other levels is the intervention. It's impacting so many folks overall now that we need to kind of put some of the kind of resources into prevention, and that's what I think the coalitions here, at least Grand Boulevard Coalition in Chicago and some of the other coalitions that we have, can promote in a more stronger and sort of cohesive manner. That how do we create the kinds of things that educate and inform and establish other types of options and alternatives to ensure that folks don't get into that kind of drug scene in many ways. So, but most of the resource these days on national and state level, what have you, is kind of dealing with the intervention side. What about the prevention?
Right.
Side that we here at Chicago Area Project and of course the coalitions, that's what they're so designed to do. is to kind of create a campaign of education and awareness
Right.
and prevention.
Okay, well, enough about your job and all that. Let's talk about you. What brought you to this? What brought you to this field? What made you to be a soldier out there on the front lines?
Well, it's interesting. I had a vision of being an architectural engineer in my youth, and I used to watch, buildings go up in and around the community that I lived in, and I thought that was fascinating. I said, hey, this is something I want to do. So I went on to, grammar school and high school and took on, the kind of educational classes that associate with development and that kind of thing, and building. And ultimately what happened is I had an experience as a young person. I always was about service. I was always volunteering,
Oh, okay.
So I volunteered while I went to school. I volunteered while I had other, things that I did in life. But I always volunteered. Well, I got honored for being a volunteer.
Okay.
And once I got that acknowledgement and encouragement, it just kind of had me kind of refocus where my emphasis needed to be on development. And I ended up not so much developing buildings and, but in a sense, how can I be useful in developing communities
Okay.
and young people? And that sort of direct me in that manner. And I ended up doing it and have been doing it for quite a while.
Ever since, huh?
Yeah, various levels. I've not always been in the sort of a managerial or a leadership role, but I was on the ground.
Well, you have to start on the ground to get to the leadership.
There you go.
But you had something very interesting that I want to pick up on. You talked about how your love was architect and engineering, and how to our youth and people who are still in school, how you can start one way and take those knowledges and that learning experience and turn it around into a whole different role. So you're really, instead of building buildings, I think you said, you're building now communities. You're building up the self-esteem and you're building up the youth of today to be the future architects out there and the future engineers that we need so badly in our community.
Definitely, and that holds true with so many young people over the years I've mentored and provided some role modeling kinds of experiences that many of them have went on into those arenas. And I'm glad I played whatever little small role that may have been. We all kind of here to serve, in this life, and that spirit of service sort of is what makes a difference in neighborhoods and communities and coalitions as we've had with the Grand Boulevard Coalition.
Yes. Well, I think we're coming up on our last couple of minutes here. So normally with my guests, I always let them have a minute to tell the audience what they want, what message you want to get out there. What would you like to say?
Well,
The floor is yours.
Right. Well, I want to encourage, as I have in the past, the notion of Dr. Martin Luther King always made a point in his speeches that, in one of his speeches that he talked about, everybody can serve. I mean, everybody can serve. Whatever you have, you think is not useful or won't nobody kind of accept or what have you, that's a bunch of bunk, because everybody can serve, everybody can offer the simple things that they think that may not make a difference, they can make a difference. And I believe in communities, local people, can take local actions for local solutions. So if we look throughout history, those are the things that have made the difference in neighborhoods and communities. And I'm glad that I can kind of attest to my own experience at being able to do those kind of things. For I hope the community kind of grab hold of that and kind of realize that you can make a difference.
Great. Well, we're in our last, they waving at me. I just want to start by saying thank you for tapping me to be a part of this world. And after I left corporate America to come and spend 3 years and giving back and helping and doing that, I really appreciate it. And I hope you continue to lift me up and I lift you up and we continue down that path. But thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
And everybody, listen, this was a great run. We're taking the next 13 weeks off to come up with some brand new shows and some great new ideas. So coming back in July, we will be here, and we want to thank everybody again. I want to thank my producer back there that's always yelling and screaming at me about getting off the air, and now I'm over, so I am just going to end by saying thank you.